The 17 News at Sunrise podcast is brought to you by Clinica Sierra Vista.
Welcome back to the 17 News at Sunrise podcast, where we share your news on your schedule.
Working in the spirit of the Golden Empire, this is 17 News at Sunrise.
Good morning to you here at 5 a.m. Thanks for waking up with us. We sure do appreciate that some people are up with us early this morning after the Super Bowl. I'm Maddie Jansen alongside Alex Fisher.
We begin this morning with the signature issue here at KGET that we call Kern's Sober Reality. Bakersfield Police say speed and alcohol caused a deadly crash in East Bakersfield over the weekend. Investigators say it happened Sunday morning on East Truxtun Avenue, just east of Union, when a speeding car crashed and rolled several times. Officers say 2 people were ejected during the crash. 1 man was killed. The other is in the hospital this morning and fighting for his life. Officers say alcohol appears to be a factor in the crash, but then there was a second DUI crash. The BPD says an unoccupied parked patrol car was being used to block the road during this investigation when a suspected drunk driver hit the cruiser. That driver was evaluated and arrested for DUI.
U-Times 503 and now to your 17 News homicide tracker, as Bakersfield Police are investigating a deadly shooting in East Bakersfield. Police tell us it happened around 2:15 Saturday afternoon on Clifton Street near MLK Boulevard. Officers confirmed 2 people were shot. 1 died at the scene and a second victim is being treated for critical injuries. The BPD confirmed that there was a shot spotter activation, but it was a 911 call that alerted police to the shooting. Officers say there's no suspect information at the time. We'll bring you updates at kget.com as we learn more.
We are learning more about a man allegedly shooting at people as they drove by. Sheriff's officials say a man was shooting at cars on Highway 119 and the 5 freeway. Officials say 1 person was hurt but was able to walk away. Deputies say they arrested 53-year-old Kurt Sabila for the shooting. He faces multiple charges, including attempted murder. Sabila is being held on $620,000 bail and is due in court tomorrow.
The abandoned Planet Fitness building in Southwest Bakersfield went up in flames again Saturday evening. Fire crews confirmed the abandoned building has burned several times before, and as you can see from our video, at this point it's just concrete walls on the outside, not much left to burn on the inside. Investigators say the building's secured as much as possible, but transients are found often inside, and fire crews had to go through the smoke as they fought each fire to make sure everyone inside got out safely.
Got a traffic alert for you. The Westside Parkway once again shutting down for construction. Crews will be working overnight to replace an overhead sign panel and install a new bridge mounted sign. The work is scheduled from 10 p.m. to 5 a.m., closing all eastbound lanes going downtown from Coffee to Truxtun. The CHP will guide drivers to a detour at the Coffee Road exit, which then connects back to the Truxtun extension to continue east, parallel to the parkway. Into Turkey and Syria now, where that deadly earthquake hit about a week ago. The latest estimate, more than 34,000 people have died. And it is almost unbelievable, but survivors are still being pulled from the rubble. And while many are clinging to that hope, anger over the rescue response is growing this morning. Gabe Gutierrez has more from Turkey.
Nearly a week after the initial quake, incredibly, survivors are still being pulled from the rubble, including this 10-year-old girl, weak and covered in dust, but alive. This rescuer in Turkey speaking with a man through a hole in the debris. God willing, we will pull you out. Pray for us and for yourself, says the rescuer, as the survivor recites verses from the Quran. Soon, his prayers are answered. God is greatest, he says. In another city, a 9-year-old boy is rescued after being trapped underneath the rubble for some 140 hours. Please bring me strawberry ice cream and drinks, he says. We're getting a new look at those heart-stopping moments from security cameras across the region when the quakes hit. Buildings crumbling into clouds of dust as cars drive by, narrowly avoiding disaster. Here in Gaziantep, the window to find survivors is closing quickly. At this site, the living have not been found for days, but the dead weigh on every relative gathered here. They cling to hope against all odds.
Many of them told us they were too distraught too upset to speak on camera, but one woman told us that one of her relatives, a young child, had been pulled out alive, but in very poor condition. She was still waiting for word on 3 other family members, still believed to be trapped inside that rubble. It's an agonizing wait.
Frustration is mounting in northwestern Syria, where the rescue group known as the White Helmets is pleading for more international help. We knew there were people under the ruins, one rescuer says. We heard their cries, but we did not have the equipment to rescue them. The UN Emergency Relief Coordinator acknowledged the world had failed the people of Syria, saying they rightly feel abandoned.
Gabe Gutierrez reporting. All right, back here at home in your 17 Court Watch. The couple charged in the deaths of their adopted sons, Orrin and Orson West, are due back in court this week. Prosecutors allege that 4-year-old Orrin and 3-year-old Orson West were killed about 3 months before their adoptive parents reported them missing on December 21st, 2020. The boys' bodies have never been found. Thursday's hearing will be a status conference to possibly set a trial schedule. Prosecutor Eric Smith is currently on trial that could last until late February, or he is involved in a trial, we should say. Attorneys representing Trezell and Jacqueline West say they are awaiting more evidence and are not ready to move forward with the case.
Meantime, convicted murderer Jamie Osuna, charged with torturing and killing his cellmate at Corcoran State Prison, will be back in court this week. It is expected that a preliminary hearing will be set at Wednesday's hearing. Osuna is facing a new trial for the brutal murder of 44-year-old Luis Romero in their cell back in 2019. At the time of Romero's death, Osuna was serving a term of life without parole for the torturous slaying of Yvette Pena in Bakersfield.
It happened again. The U.S. military shot down another high-flying object. This time it happened yesterday over Lake Huron between Canada and Michigan. NBC's Bree Jackson is in Washington, D.C. with details.
The U.S. military shooting down a 4th unidentified high-altitude object Sunday, this time over Lake Huron.
What's gone on the last, 2 weeks or so, 10 days, has been nothing short of craziness. And the military needs to have a plan to not only determine what's out there, but determine the dangers that go with it.
President Biden ordering the takedown after military officials raised concerns about the object's path and altitude, saying it was a safety flight hazard and a threat due to its potential surveillance capabilities. This marks the 3rd object blasted out of the sky in just 3 days. And comes a week after a Chinese surveillance balloon had Americans' eyes glued to the sky.
They do appear somewhat trigger happy, although this is certainly preferable to the permissive environment that they showed when the Chinese spy balloon was coming over some of our most sensitive sites.
Military leaders say the Pentagon has been more closely scrutinizing U.S. airspace. Officials are still collecting data to determine what the recent objects are, as bipartisan calls for transparency grow.
Why it's taking so long for number one, for me personally, to identify these objects. 2, why is it taking so long for them to be shot down?
In the absence of information, people's anxiety leads them into potentially destructive areas. So I do hope that very soon the administration has a lot more information for all of us on what's going on.
Lawmakers are pushing for a briefing on the unidentified flying objects. The Pentagon continues to search for debris and answers about their nature and purpose. And defense officials say there was no indication of aliens with these recent takedowns. In Washington, Bree Jackson, NBC News.
The 17 News at Sunrise podcast is a production of KGET and Nexstar Media Group. For more on all of the headlines in today's show, head to kget.com.